What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for just taking a few minutes out of your day to spend some time with me as we continue our journey towards a momentous life, a life that's more abundant and free. You know, in my first video, I gave you a challenge, and that was to not be afraid. And that idea of not being afraid, it's kind of stuck with me. Over the last couple of days, I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been even asking myself, you know, what's my biggest fear? Kind of doing some self-reflective type questions. So what's my biggest fear? And as I've been thinking about that, that's something I would actually ask you today. What is your biggest fear? And as I ask you that question, I kind of want you to think of it in two ways, or really have two different answers. You know, first, what's your big kind of almost impractical type fear? And what I mean by that is, what's your fear that, you know, probably won't ever happen, won't ever, you know, come to pass type of fear? You know, for you, it might be a fear of public speaking, a fear of spiders, or you might just be scared of clowns or something like that. Well, the good news is that it's not very likely that you'll end up in a room full of clowns. And if you don't like to speak in public, you know, you've probably positioned yourself in your job or wherever you're at, whatever it is that you do, to probably not have to speak in front of people very often. So that's kind of what I mean by having an impractical fear. I think we all have something like that we tend to just stay away from, but it's probably not ever going to happen. My second question, and the second way I want you to think of it, what's a fear that you have that's really very real and something that might be holding you back, something that you might be dealing with every day? And, you know, for me, I'll tell you mine. The one that gives me the most anxiety is really a fear of just looking stupid in front of people. And you know, this is something that I've had and kind of dealt with for about as long as I can remember. And so the way that I'm wired, the way God has really made me, is to just be naturally more introverted. You know, I'm not a super loud or really boisterous person, and to me, trying to be that way or act that way, it's just one of the most unnatural things. And you know, that doesn't mean, at least I hope it doesn't mean, that I'm super shy or awkward or, you know, really anything like that. It just usually means that I'm more reserved and tend to share my thoughts or ideas differently and in different ways than someone who tends to be more extroverted. And don't get me wrong, being a more introverted person, you know, definitely isn't a bad thing. I'm just telling you that how that natural tendency for me of being introverted has kind of played into this fear that I have of looking dumb or stupid in front of people. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how this fear has tended to present itself in my life. And one way is that it's really hard for me to put myself out there, to put my ideas or thoughts out in front of a group of people. So, you know, I could be sitting in a meeting with a bunch of people and feel like I have something really good to contribute or have an idea for something. And this is what I tend to do. You know, I sit there and I think of all the different ways that idea, you know, would sound dumb or would sound stupid to all of these people in that meeting. And really, in turn, I stop and think about all the different ways of how that's going to make me look stupid in front of these people. And in those moments, you know, it's a fear that can, in a lot of ways, just completely paralyze me. And I don't sit there, and at least I hope I don't look like I'm in some kind of coma or anything like that. But, you know, that fear, it really hurts me, because I've found that people then think that I don't have anything special or unique to offer or to bring to the table in those settings. And really, why would they? I mean, if this paralyzing fear is keeping me from sharing what could be these great ideas, you know, why would people just assume that I have anything to offer? And so, you know, I've wanted to start a YouTube channel for a long time. In fact, I felt God prompting me, you know, to do these videos. But, you know, can you guess what has kept me from doing them? My fear of looking dumb in front of a bunch of people. And now that fear, it can manifest itself in a lot of different ways in my mind. And really, all of those ways that it comes out are really just excuses. And, I start thinking, well, what if I make these videos and nobody watches them? You're going to look dumb for even trying. Who's going to listen to what you have to say anyway? Nobody really cares what you think or what you have to say. You're just going to look stupid in front of a bunch of people. And so this fear of putting myself out there, especially in a way that can be critiqued by a bunch of people, is really, really hard for me. And it's an area in my life that I feel like has really held me back in a lot of ways, because instead of allowing God to work through my life and help me battle through these fears, what I would always do would just be to simply then not try, just to give up with the idea, with the project, whatever. And that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help me. It doesn't help those around me, and it doesn't help God accomplish the things that He wants to do in my life. And that's really the big picture that I think we need to focus on. You see, God wants to do things in your life, really big things and momentous things. But we often, at least for me, don't let God do those things because we're afraid. We let our fears get in the way, and those fears always stop us from doing what God really, really wants to do in our lives. And, in a lot of ways, I'm not talking about, finding success in life through material things or with success in your career or with money. If you found success in those ways, that's really good. And there have been times in my life that I've found success, in those ways too. But here's the thing. Success, it often doesn't equal fulfillment. You might have the job that you've always wanted. You might have the house or the car that you've always dreamed of. But here's the question. Do you find yourself still searching or longing to do something that'll make a difference, that'll make a real difference? So what's keeping you from doing that? Is it a fear that you have? That's what's kept me from doing a lot of things in my life, and I don't want it to hold me back any longer. I don't want those fears to hold you back any longer either. Just a couple weeks ago, somebody told me that there are exactly 365 references in the Bible that tell us to not be afraid. And that means that we could literally find a different example each day for an entire year in the Bible that would remind us to not be afraid, to not have fear in our lives when it comes to doing the things that God wants us to do. And I don't know about you, but to me, that's pretty exciting. That is good news, because I have a lot of fears about doing these things. And most of the time that the Bible tells us to fear not or to not be afraid is when God shows up in people's lives and asks them to do really something incredible. And in a lot of instances in the Bible, when God shows up, people are scared. And God then tells them to not be afraid. And then He reveals something to them, reveals something huge that He wants to do in their lives. And you know what they usually say? They would usually say, why me? I can't do that. Who am I, God? And you know what God would tell them? He would tell them, I will be with you. And it's the same thing He's saying to us today. Don't be afraid, because the God that created the universe will be with you each step of the way. I promise you that. I promise you that. So whatever that fear is that's been holding you back, today is the day to conquer it.